What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Wildcat Cave. Today kicks off the most fun and exciting 3 weeks of the year. If you're like me, you'll be at home wishing you were watching the games, but instead you're actually completing a really long honey-do list, just hoping you can get it finished before the game you care about starts. Anyway, this tournament is set up to be one of the most exciting ones yet. Kentucky has secured a 3 seed and a fairly easy path in my opinion. Let's dive into the bracket. Before we jump in, do me a favor and click on the subscribe button and the notification bell so you can follow along all of March. It helps the channel out a ton and it means the world to me. Also, leave your comments down below of who you have winning it all and how far the Cats are going. Lastly, if you're watching this before the first game starts, hurry up and join the Wildcat Cave Bracket Challenge. Updates will be posted after each round and the winner will receive a prize. Alright guys, let's talk about this bracket. We're going to go through all the regions really quickly. We'll finish with Kentucky's South region. I'll give you my picks and the best upsets in my opinion, and then we'll talk about what can the Cats do starting today. Alright, we will start off in the East region where number 1 seed UConn takes on Stetson. I think that one's a no-brainer. UConn moves on. FAU Northwestern, Dusty May's on his way out, but I think he gets one more win. San Diego State and UAB, we're going San Diego State. Auburn and Yale, I think Auburn's peaking. We're taking Auburn. BYU and Duquesne, BYU. Illinois and Moorhead, I think Preston Spradlin and Moorhead gives them all they want, but it's just not going to be enough. Then you have the 7-10 matchup of Washington and Drake. I think Drake pulls the upset here. I look for them to move on to the second round. And then finally, Iowa State and South Dakota State. Iowa State's really good. I'm picking the Cyclones. Then you move on to the second round. I have UConn beating FAU, Auburn over San Diego State, Illinois over BYU, and that's where Drake runs in as they run into Iowa State. Now we're in the Sweet 16. I basically have chalk here, 1, 2, 3, and 4. I think UConn and Iowa State move on, and UConn goes to the Final Four. In the Midwest, we have Purdue beating Grambling. I know a lot of you guys are probably going to have Purdue getting upset. I think they can't screw it up 4 times in a row, so I picked Purdue to win this. TCU over Utah State. One of the best upsets in my opinion, and I think this is kind of true of everybody's bracket this year, McNeese over Gonzaga. Now Gonzaga's played a lot better recently to end the year, kind of after beating Kentucky. McNeese is hot. Will Wade has them rolling. I'm taking the 5-12 matchup with McNeese. And then we have Kansas and Samford. This is another popular upset. I did pick Kansas. I think their talent's just going to be too much, but keep an eye on that game. South Carolina over Oregon, Creighton over Akron, Texas over Colorado State, and Tennessee over St. Peter's. But how funny would that be if 2 years after St. Peter beat us, they go beat Tennessee? I might just turn into a peacock if that happens. In the round of 32, I have Purdue beating TCU, McNeese over Kansas. Like I said, I think Samford can beat them. If they don't, McNeese will. Kansas just doesn't have enough depth. There's too many injuries. I think McNeese moves on to the Sweet 16. Creighton, I think, is playing really well. They beat South Carolina. And then Tennessee in the Rick Barnes Bowl beats Texas. On to the Sweet 16 in that bracket. I have Purdue beating McNeese to move to the Elite 8, and Creighton beating number 2 Tennessee to move on. And then I have Creighton beating Purdue to go to the Final Four. On to the West region, I have North Carolina moving on, Michigan State against Mississippi State. Tom Izzo has an insane record as a lower seed in the tournament. I'm going to trust Sparty to beat Mississippi State. St. Mary's and Grand Canyon, another 5-12 matchup. I just don't think Grand Canyon has it. I'm going St. Mary's. Charleston and Alabama, I think this could be a sneaky upset pick. Charleston is a really good team, really good record. Alabama has played their worst ball of the year to end the year, which is not what you want to see to make a run. Give me Charleston in the 4-13 upset. Clemson and New Mexico. New Mexico has a ton of Kentucky ties. Jamal Mashburn, Jamal Baker, Richard Pitino, the list goes on. I'm taking New Mexico to upset Clemson. Baylor over Colgate, Dayton over Nevada, and Arizona over Long Beach. In the round of 32, I'm taking North Carolina to end Tom Izzo's run, St. Mary's over Charleston, New Mexico to upset Baylor and go to the Sweet 16, And then number 2, Arizona to also move on. Then I have North Carolina versus St. Mary's in the Sweet 16. Give me North Carolina. And then Arizona ends the New Mexico run, also in the Elite 8. And then give me North Carolina to go to the Final Four. And finally, guys, that brings us to the South region, the Kentucky region. This is one of the harder regions in my opinion, but it sets up fairly well for Kentucky. I think the West region is by far the easiest. North Carolina got the best draw. Second might be Kentucky, though, in the South. Your number 1 seed is Houston. I think they obviously take care of Longwood. Nebraska and A&M is going to be a really good game. I think I'm going to take Nebraska, but that's really a coin flip to me. Then another 5-12 matchup is going to be James Madison and Wisconsin. James Madison, probably the most popular 5-12 upset this year. There's a bunch of really good 5-12s and 6-11s. Give me James Madison to take down Wisconsin. Duke and Vermont is also a very popular upset pick. I don't think it's going to quite get there for the Catamounts. Give me Duke to go on. Texas Tech and NC State, again, another good matchup here. I don't think the 11 seed takes it. I think Texas Tech moves on. And then Kentucky, Oakland. As far as Kentucky's draw goes, this is a team that it seems to be very confident playing Kentucky, but they play a very similar style to Kentucky. And because of that, I think the Cats have a chance to run them out of the gym tonight. At least I hope they do. And then they move on to the round of 32. I think Florida beats Colorado even without their big guy, and Marquette beats Western. On to the round of 32, I have Houston taking care of Nebraska pretty easily. Duke and James Madison, a lot of people would pick James Madison here. I just think it's going to be a crazy tournament. I think Duke has the talent to just calm them down. It's too popular of a pick to have them going all the way, so give me Duke. And then Kentucky over Texas Tech. Texas Tech doesn't play the style Kentucky likes, but I think they can take care of business and get to the Sweet 16 again. And then Florida and Marquette. I think this is going to be a really tough, close game. A lot of good guard play in this one. Neither team plays a real good big. They both like to get up and down the floor. It depends really on how Tyler Kolek is playing for Marquette. If he's back from that injury and playing well, then I think Marquette has a chance to win by 10 to 15 points. But I don't know that, a game and a half in, he's going to be back at full strength. I'm going to take Marquette, but keep an eye and see how healthy Tyler Kolek is. In the Sweet 16, that will give you the matchups of Houston and Duke. I think this is where Duke runs out. I don't think they're really all that great. I think Houston, struggled to end the year, but they're just too good defensively, and Jamal Shead is really, really good. And then that also gives you Kentucky and Marquette, two teams that like to get up and down the floor. Tyler Kolek might be the best point guard in the game, but I think Kentucky's depth, our shooting, they like to do exactly what we do. And like I've said all year, no team does what Kentucky does as well as Kentucky. So because of that, I have the Cats going to the Elite Eight to take on Houston. Now in that game, that's going to be a really, really tough game for the Cats. Again, Houston is a really good defensive team, but they can struggle to score. Now, nobody's really struggled to score against Kentucky, but if Kentucky can play any sort of defense, they have a real chance at making the Final Four, and we're not even talking about what if upsets happen. What if they get an easier path than what I'm laying out here for you today? I think Kentucky's path to the Elite Eight is as good as you could hope for, and the Final Four is right there for the taking. I don't love having Houston as our number 1 seed, but listen, once you get to the Elite Eight, you're playing a good team, and it doesn't matter what bracket you're in. You're going to have to beat somebody, and all things considered, I would have rather had Purdue, but I'll take a defensive team because no one's been able to stop us from scoring. I'll take a defensive team like that and just go outscore them on the other end. And that brings you to my Final Four of UConn, North Carolina, Houston, and Creighton. I just don't think the Cats overcome it. I think there's a chance. We'll talk about it when we get there. But I do have 3 number 1 seeds, and then Creighton a 3 in the Final Four. Pretty chalky. I think this tournament's going to be maybe the most insane one in recent years for the first weekend. And then kind of once you get to the Sweet 16, stuff starts to level out. The higher seed teams, the better teams kind of pull away from the pack. And we have a pretty narrowed down, Elite Eight and Final Four, closer to that 1 and 2 seed line. In the championship, though, I have UConn and Houston. I don't know that UConn can go back-to-back. It's something that rarely happens in the NCAA tournament. Upsets happen all the time. UConn is a really good team, but so is Houston. I think it's Houston's time. Kelvin Sampson's a great coach. I think they win the championship this year. But listen, this tournament, like I said, is going to be crazy. One upset in any of these brackets could just send the whole thing into chaos. Kentucky has just as good of chance as anybody to get to a Final Four. And once you're there, you're good enough to win a championship. So I'm ready to follow along. Let's go out tonight and beat Oakland. Then we'll worry about Texas Tech or NC State. But after that, guys, let the magic happen. That is going to wrap up this video, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. It's going to be a fun March, so subscribe to follow along. Let me know your predictions in the comments. I'll see you guys in the Sweet 16. Go Cats.